Simmons still isn't at training camp as the Sixers face the Raptors tonight, a game that would cost Simmons roughly $360,000 off his salary. But as Philly continues to look for another trade partner, an unnamed Eastern exec told SI this, quote, "F that. You let a guy force his way out with 4 years left on a max contract, and you set a terrible precedent. They can't cave." Zach, does that precedent need to be in the minds of the Sixers front office as they pursue a trade?
Here's where that executive is wrong, though. They're not caving, and they're not caving because they're not paying him. The NBA has been building to this moment for years and years and years. From Jimmy Butler to James Harden to Anthony Davis to every player that's requested a trade, which, by the way, teams trade players all the time at the drop of a hat. I don't think a trade request is some big unfair thing. I do think when you sign a contract, you have made a commitment to play basketball in exchange for money. And the big test case was going to be when a player did this with years left on his contract, would the team have the guts to say, you get $0 and you're getting none of it or almost none of it back? So I don't think the precedent, if you care about precedent, is all that quote-unquote bad for teams. If the Sixers claw back all that money and say, hey, you're getting zero or almost zero until you play for us, and trade him for a good return, which, by the way, is still on the table. If they trade Ben Simmons, I bet they're going to get a good return if they play their cards right, if they get some breaks around the league, like a couple of teams get desperate, get off to bad starts or whatever. So I'm not as worried as that executive. I get why everybody is watching this. Everybody's worried. But the money was the big question, and the Sixers are answering that question. They're not caving to Ben Simmons. They're saying, you get nothing, and we're going to trade you and stay away as long as you like.
Well, I mean, listen, I tried to warn the world a few weeks ago that the 76ers were not budging, right? The ownership group, it's not Elton Brand, it's not Daryl Morey, it's not Doc Rivers. The ownership group is standing firm. They have plans on sending a message that, hey, you're not going to play horrible and then put the responsibility on us to trade you and get back something that we don't want. And I knew that this time was going to come where you was going to face some ownership group that's going to say, hey, not over here, because like the executive said, it's not like a James Harden or Anthony Davis situation because they only had 1 year left on their deal. This guy signed to 4 years. So at the end of the day, it's like, no, you're not going to underperform and then put the pressure on us and say we have to deal with it. And I knew that the owners were going to do this. And you know what? If an executive from another team spoke out publicly, can you only imagine what executives and ownership groups are talking about behind the scenes right now? They can't wait till the next CBA. I'm telling you, the next CBA comes up, it is not going to work in the players' favor.
But, Perk, ultimately, what's more important, though? You know, that precedent or protecting Joel Embiid's prime?
Well, I mean, look, Cassidy, Joel Embiid came out. When he spoke in his interview and he let loose, that let me further know that, hey, we're willing to move on. Like Joel Embiid said, he had to take that leadership role and speak up because the guys that he do have with him right now that is going to go to war with him, he has to make sure that they feel comfortable. So that goes to show me that, one, he's sticking up for his organization and he has the back of his teammates. And so to me, it's collectively. Joel wasn't just speaking up for Joel. He was speaking up for Philly in general.
I mean, Perk, I don't know if you saw, but I think Zach was saying that you were preaching the gospel.
Zach, but listen, you got to get one of those books and start fanning yourself with it.
That's the execution of that.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.